I am excited to bring you this week's episode guest. I'm bringing in one of my dear friends. Her name is Katrina Byrd, and we had a conversation a few months ago that I felt was really meaningful, just between the two of us, about race and growing up Black in America and how white people can do a better job. And I just wanted to rehash that for you today. So I drug her here, almost literally, but she was kind and gracious enough to come share her experiences and answer some of my questions. And I do know that this can be a very sensitive subject for a lot of people, but it's one that I truly believe we need to have conversations around. And we need to listen, we need to hear, and we need to do what the Bible said, which is to stand with the oppressed and love our neighbors. So I'm so excited for you to meet one of the coolest people I know. I know you're going to love her just as much as I do. Enjoy Katrina Byrd. I'm so excited.
I am too.
I drug you here.
That's okay. I low-key want to vomit, but that's okay.
Okay, so backstory for everyone on this. Katrina was over to barbecue in my house, months ago?
Yes.
Because of COVID, months ago.
Yes.
And it was after George Floyd, and we were in the kitchen and we just started raging.
Pretty much.
And I don't think we ever went outside to the barbecue. And I texted PK after you left. Did he tell you? PK is Pastor Keon, Katrina's husband, who is our executive pastor. I texted him afterwards and I was like, I really wanted to make her be my best friend, but I think I could talk to her too much.
No, we were totally best friends after that.
I know, right? Sure. That's what I felt. But then I was like, oh my gosh, like she didn't even go get to see her kids in the pool. Did she even get a burger?
Keon was on like lifeguard duty. He's got it. Kids don't drown.
I wanted you to get a burger, but I also really want to talk to you because you're so smart. And we were jiving on these levels. And that's why I was like, I have to have you on and talk uncomfortable sometimes and have conversations about racism. Yeah. And I just felt like you had such a wonderful perspective. And because you're multiracial.
Yes.
And so you come at it in a completely your own way.
Absolutely.
And so I just wanted to highlight, obviously it's an issue. Obviously it has been. You know, I was taught growing up, Abraham Lincoln abolished. Yeah. Really, that's what we, and yes, slavery.
Actually, he said, what we can do is no more slave states from this point on. You can keep your slave states, but every new state we get will have to be a free state. So he didn't nix slavery. That wasn't his intention, but
introduced a new way.
Yes, but they said no. And so then it became now a civil war. Yeah.
Really? This is the educator in her. And I love it. I love it. Oh, so that's how it became a civil war.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. The South didn't want to compromise because in their mind, that's like more states than we have. So then you're going to overpower us. And so they weren't comfortable with that.
And so we just learn growing up in the history books. Oh yeah. And I think a lot of white people, and I don't want to bag on white people, because I'm one. And, but I do think we were taught some things that aren't accurate. Yeah. And in regards to systemic racism and what people of color face in this country over the last 400 years. And I just really want to dig into some of your experiences and open the conversation. And I want to listen. I want to learn. I want to hear. And I want my listeners to hear from you because I think as a white person who has slowly realized what's going on out there and that my experience is completely different growing up in America. Than a person of color. And I would say almost opposite experiences. And so I think as a white person, it's easy. Well, I guess in any situation, our experiences are what we assume are everyone's experiences. Yeah. And so I have realized over the years that my experience is not everyone's experience. And there is deep, layered sin, systemic racism, biases. I mean, from the top to the bottom. Yeah. I mean, and it has to be talked about. And it's uncomfortable and it's hard, I think, for somebody who hasn't experienced to be listening and be like, no. I had a lady tell me a while ago, like, no, there's no racism, like white, you know, there's no racism. No. Like, I don't even know a racist person, you know, and I'm in the South. And so I think sometimes I want to break down what it is. How do we combat it? Yeah. But to start with, tell me your history. You're multiracial.
I am. So my dad is Black and my mom is white. Mm-hmm. My parents were never married. So my dad was always in my life, but not really a constant just because he didn't live with us day to day.
Yeah.
Also kind of depended on his relationship with my mom, whether they were good or not. So for all intents and purposes, raised by a single mom who was white. All of my extended family that I spent most of my time around was white. So my grandmother, she had a lot of brothers and sisters. So my great aunts and uncles, all of my cousins were white. So I have that side, but then I feel like my mom did a really good job too, because she had a lot of diversity as far as her friends. So even though my family was very white, I felt like our extended family, that circle was very diverse. We always had Black and brown people around. So I never felt like I was gypped one way or the other.
Okay, yeah.
And then I always spent time too with my dad and being around his family, not as much as my mom's side, but I felt like I always had people. When I say people that look like me, Black and brown people, but maybe not biracial people. So I think we were having this conversation in your kitchen, and I just kind of realized like I didn't see a lot of people that were biracial like me. It was my brother, and he was probably the only one that I knew. And then when I went to high school, I saw other biracial kids, and I was like, whoa. Oh, wow. So, I think... I don't know. There's always been this thing, and I will even say my mom's dad, my grandfather would say like, and maybe even some of the other people on that side of the family of like, what are you doing? Like, they're going to be so confused and no side is really going to want them. And so I never felt excluded, but I always felt sometimes that I was like, maybe an exhibit because I had fair skin and my hair was a little bit straighter than normal. And so people were always like, number one question, what are you? And I used to say, well, I'm a girl. And they were like, no. Like, what race are you? And so we would eventually get to that. But that was always like, what are you? So I had to go around saying, well, my dad is Black, and my mom is white.
That was normalized to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You weren't probably even offended about it.
No, because I think I was just so used to it.
So normal.
Yeah. That it was like, this is what I am. I'm confusing everyone.
Yeah.
But I don't ever feel rejected by either side. But I will say I learned early on, like code switching.
Yes.
So
Can you explain code switching? Because this is a very important
So code
word.
Switching is when you are... I hate to say it, but when you're different around other groups of people. So I knew what white people expected me to sound like and things to do and what to look like. And so I made sure that I was doing those things around them. And then I knew like what maybe Black culture was saying I should sound like and talk like. And I probably code switched, oh my gosh, until I was in college when I realized, what the heck am I doing? Like, I need to be myself.
Yeah.
I think I was always envious with my younger brother. He's 6 years younger, and he never code switched. Like, he is who he is. And I was always in awe of that. But he was always judged too.
By the out group or the in group, whatever it was.
Like he was always maybe a little too Black.
Okay.
And I actually had...
Judged by your family?
By my family, I actually had
because he embraced a...
Yeah, well, he was just who he was. Yeah. And if he didn't, tuck his shirt in, and like, I know this sounds really weird, but if he didn't tuck his shirt in, if he didn't, pronounce all of the syllables and the vowels and consonants in his words, and he was, he was being Black. And then that also told me, like, apparently Black people cannot speak proper. They can't look nice. And if they do, then they're trying to be white. So that's kind of also one of the things.
And this was internalized subconsciously?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can even remember when I got engaged to Keon, and he is, he's a good guy, and he's well-spoken, and he's always been goal-driven. And I can remember my uncle making a comment to him, and the fact that he was so comfortable and also thought that this was okay to say, he was like, you're a good guy. And he said something about my brother. He's Black. So he was basically saying like, Keon's white, my brother's a little too black.
Mm-hmm.
So although I didn't feel rejection because I code switched.
Yep.
That's probably what saved me. My brother might have a different story and a different experience because he was like, this is me. Love it or leave it.
Yeah. And so he might have gotten more persecution.
I'm sure.
I'm
sure. Yeah. And also I guess too, I will say when you look at him, he does look more black, and you look at me and I usually get like the Latina vibe all the time. So that's also maybe something that saved me too. So, oh my gosh, she's brown, but she's not black. So she's safe.
Did you face any challenges as a kid, like in high school or elementary? Did you?
So I will say you talked about biases, and I first of all, again, just like you, I don't want to crap on white people.
No, this is like, but we have to have these talks.
Yes, there are good white people in the world, and I feel like the difference between racism and these biases is like biases are a little bit more dangerous because you don't even know you have them, and we all have them.
Yeah, it's one thing to walk into church in like KKK gear.
Yes, you know where they stand.
Obviously,
yes,
but the implicit bias. Okay, yes. Yeah. Tell me about that.
So,
yes.
And again, we all have them. I have them.
Absolutely.
It's based on our experiences. A lot of it is based on like images that are portrayed. I mean, when I can remember. And I'm black, looking and thinking, my goodness, black people don't have it together because they're the ones on the news. They're the ones getting arrested. And that's just a snippet of what they're showing you. They're not showing you all the good things or maybe the other groups of people that are also being arrested.
Yep.
And so I feel like those biases are a little bit more dangerous because I don't know where you stand. And sometimes you don't know where you stand because you don't even know you have them.
And because we don't want to be called racist,
yes,
because that's like the ultimate insult right now. We're unwilling to really look, I think, sometimes.
I can even remember doing a training. So in the past, maybe 2 years or so, I had a colleague and she talked about going to this bias training, and they were just putting them through different practices and like, if you see this, what's your first thought? And they were biases. Like I look at this black boy and I know he's from a single parent. He doesn't have a dad in the home. He's probably low socioeconomic. But then in that same breath, she was saying like, I was just, my mind was blown. And sometimes they're negative biases and sometimes they're good biases.
Right.
Like I even think of like in the Asian community and especially in education, like that's a bias that we have, that they come from strong parents and they're all about education.
They're smart.
Yes. So sometimes they go either way. But I remember her sharing this story and then trying to excuse it away. Like, I wish I could remember her exact words, but basically saying she wanted to say, but that's not really what the teacher meant when she was saying that. But that is what she said.
Yeah.
Those were her biases. Yep. But just saying that because they didn't come from a negative place, that they were okay. And just so that to me says, again, you don't want to own those biases.
Right. And owning them is the first step.
Absolutely.
To growing.
Yeah.
We all have so much growth to go through. And that's why, like, it's just, if we don't confront it and have, like, some awkward talks.
Yeah. Because it is awkward.
And it is, yeah. And if we're not willing to be like, hey, there may be some things, I am a product of my culture, media. And as much as I'm a Christian, as much as I fight for Christian being like my number one identity, like there is a barrage.
Absolutely. Of
things.
You're constant. It's like a sponge. You're soaking these things up, whether you know it or not.
Whether we know it or not. And what they're showing or what they're, and it's just, have you heard of that Harvard bias test?
No.
So I just did it. My sister told me about it. And I think it's through Harvard, or it might be through maybe Yale. But online you can get and do a test. And it's like pictures and words.
Okay.
And like you click very quickly and it will tell you, and then they'll ask you like, I'm trying to even remember.
Is it kind of like associations? Like you see a picture or a word and you.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah, it is associations. Okay. Yeah, that's one part of it. And then the other part was like, do you feel like you should do good for people less fortunate or whatever. Strongly agree, less agree. Or so they're not asking you explicit questions, which is why they're getting to the, it's very interesting. And my sister took it a while ago and she was like, I am shocked at what came up. And and this is her humility. And this is what I think, like, if we as white Christians can like embrace, like really look at what pops up.
Yeah.
You know, and just like there are some things. I was listening to a guy talking, Emmanuel, I think. He does this YouTube. It's Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man.
Oh yeah, he's like a football player, right?
Yes. Or is he a football player?
I feel like he was into sports, but I know who you're talking about. Yes.
And so I was listening to some of his YouTube videos when all this was going down because I wanted to learn and I didn't want to be like, oh, all the other white people are bad and I'm so, because it's not, there's something in me too. And he was talking about how when he is on, like if he's going on a run and there's like a white girl coming at him, you know what I'm going to say. Like, because he veers around because we have been taught threat. It's a threat. It's a threat. And whether we can admit that or not, that's where we are going to change or not, honestly.
Absolutely.
But okay, so when did you realize the reality of racism? Did your mom talk to you? Did your dad talk to you? Because it had to have been hard for your mom as a white woman, even knowing what you might be experiencing. Because this was 20 years ago?
Yeah. So I don't know. So to be honest, I can't even think of an actual conversation about race I've ever had with either of my parents.
Okay.
My dad's a real quiet guy. And unless you pry it out of him, you're not going to get it. But I feel like he's got so many stories to tell just because he's a little older than my mom. And so he lived through segregation. He went to a segregated high school or actually
Jim
segregated
Crow,
school his entire life.
Goodness.
Really? So, yeah. Because he's like 82.
This is the thing. This is like brand new almost. I mean, this is not long ago.
Yeah, no.
He's still alive.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, but he doesn't talk a lot about it. Yeah. And I think it's because he's from that generation of this was the reality and what can we do about it?
Yeah.
Like, we can't change it. We're just going to go with the time. I think that's just kind of where he's from. And so we don't have a lot of conversations about it. And even with my mom, she's willing to talk about it, but she's never one to take the first step. And she can sympathize, but she can never empathize.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So even with my brother, I can remember, gosh, maybe he was 16, maybe at 16, being on the, hood of a police car with guns drawn, and my brother wouldn't hurt a fly. And so I remember her like being upset.
Is this Dallas?
So I lived in Duncanville, which is like a suburb south of Dallas. And she being so upset, and my grandmother like, oh, get his badge number, and not even knowing that that's just a reality. Like that happens all the time. It wasn't special to him or so coming to terms with that. And I feel like her eyes have been open even more. But yeah, we never had a real conversation when I was younger about race. It was just, I guess, just kind of figure it out. I also grew up in the generation of we don't see color. We love everyone.
Yes. Okay, talk about that.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I love what I know you're about to say. We don't see color. Everybody's the same to me.
Yes. And so I feel like that came from a good place. I'm sure it did.
100%.
It came from a good place. But when you say you don't see color, you're saying you don't see me. Because clearly there's a difference. There's a difference between you and I. Yes. There is color. Color is what makes us special.
100%.
It's the same as our hair color and eye color.
Yes.
Like, you've got to see me. And so when you say, I know you're saying like, I'm just inclusive of everyone, but those words are damaging because now I'm invisible.
Right.
And then now that I'm invisible and you can't see my color, then you can never understand my story.
Yes.
So, yeah. So I love the mind that shift, but that is a generation that I grew up with. So maybe that's why we never had those conversations. It's because we're all one big happy family.
Right. And you were Christian too, right?
Yes.
So there's that layer of like, there's the Christian thing on top of it. Like, of course we're all equal in God's eyes. And of course, yes, that's true.
Yes.
But this is, okay, so.
And I struggle with that too. And I think I always have. The more I learn and the things that I research of like, there's so many things, bad things done under the guise of Christianity.
Yes, ma'am.
So when I hear like, well, she's Christian, and I'm like, yeah, but sometimes people justify things
You
that's
use the
not
Bible
of
to
God.
oppress. They use the Bible
Absolutely.
to enslave. They use the Bible to...
Yes.
Yeah.
So
you were talking about your brother
yes.
on the hood of a police car.
Yes.
So when George Floyd happened not long ago, I feel like the white community, in a very positive way, not all, but many, responded in outrage and shock because we actually saw a murder.
Yes.
And I remember talking to PK, your husband, afterwards, and he was like, this is not new.
No.
And I feel like for us, all of a sudden we're like, what is that? This is not okay. This is not okay. And every Black friend I have is like, like Dustin, one of Dustin's best friends, Phil, he's with him every Sunday. He was like, he didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
He was just like, oh yeah, of course. Like we've been getting, and again, not to bag on anything particularly, but the point is Black people have been oppressed for centuries.
Yes.
By all kinds of ways.
Yes.
And it's not new to them.
No.
The learning curve is so steep for so many of us because we just have never experienced it and never. Can you talk to me about, I was talking to PK one day and he was saying how, and we can cut anything. So, but he was talking about how him and some of like y'all's like Black friends are less outraged than white people. It seemed currently post George Floyd. And he was saying how he feels like the Black community has been taught to be quiet.
Yes.
Do you
absolutely
agree?
I mean, I think about how slavery worked. Like you didn't say anything until you were spoken to. Like you oppress and suppress everything that you're feeling because you have to survive.
Yep.
So I would say as a people, we probably are a little less quiet, loud, just because what are the consequences? If I speak up, what does happen?
Yep.
A lot of times I'm the only one in the room. Like I work at 2 campuses and I think there's only one person between those 2 campuses. Oh, I'll say 2 that look like me. And so it is like, first of all, I don't want to be the one that always talks up because I am the only one in the room. But it's also, what if I do and no one else understands what I'm saying or gets what I'm saying? And so now there's consequences from that. Yeah.
You always have to be thinking about how you might pay.
Yes.
For stepping up.
Yes.
And speaking up.
And I think too, and that takes me back to the code switching when you're in those different groups, you got to do and say what you should say and what you shouldn't say in order for you to be accepted. So
I remember one day we're filming or we're recording this in her husband's office, PK's. But I remember one day I was out talking to the children's director or something out here outside of the room, and he was taking a meeting with some bankers or something.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And he came out and he's like in his like cool gear, like he dresses cool, like he's got his like Nike on and he comes out and the banker's like, oh, look at you, LeBron.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you. And just would not let up on how he looked.
That's privilege right there.
And that's privilege. And we'll go there next. But I looked at him and I was like, I felt nauseous. And he just was like, oh, ha, 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 ha. And I'm just like, I'm seeing it in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm literally watching it go down. And it's not the overt.
Yeah.
It's the, oh, we're buddies and haha. And I can project on you.
Yeah.
Whatever. And I don't know if like they were trying to be cool or if they were,
sometimes it is. Like I'm just trying to be funny and I think I'm giving you a compliment, but really you are being a racist.
You're perpetuating.
Yeah,
things.
absolutely. I shouldn't say, I take that back. Not a racist.
Maybe rate. I was just hearing about the difference between racial tendencies and racism.
Yes.
So we'll be
that's a tendency. I like that. Yes.
It's a tendency. And so it's not always like mean, I hate Black people.
Absolutely,
that's easy to identify.
Yeah.
But it's
the other one's a little more sneaky.
Yeah. It's so sneaky. And I think like for white people, it's been so hard because like we talked about earlier, like we're being called out on some things that we need to be called out on to change the trajectory of all of this. And it's hard and it hurts, and because we don't want to be wrong and we have our reasons for, whatever. But at the same time, there is, and I want to talk white privilege because this is so offensive to people. The term white privilege, people lose it. Over this. Because if you work hard and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and if you're a person of character, you're going to make it in this world. And that's across the board. That is the mindset. I hear that a lot. So do you have a way to explain white privilege? And then I can agree with you on it.
So I don't know if they get offended just because that they hear the word privilege and just think like it was handed to them. And that's not what we're saying.
No, not at all. Because white people have had hard times too.
Absolutely.
I know white people who've lost babies, who've lost children, who have been in accidents. So no one's saying.
Yes.
White people haven't been through stuff.
Yes. So I don't know if even upper hand even makes it sound better, but there are definitely advantages. And again, it goes to those biases. I had a friend. She was from another state. She was driving up. She had an interview. She had a friend that lived in the area. That friend was going to take her to her interview. It was the summertime. So she was like, just come in with me and wait. Mm-hmm. The friend's in like a tank top and booty shorts.
Is the friend white?
The friend is white. Okay. And the one that's going to the interview is black. Okay. And she's clearly dressed for an interview. Yep. And the employer comes out and goes straight to the one in the tank top and booty shorts because clearly she's the one that's qualified. Mm-hmm. And she hadn't opened her mouth. She hadn't done anything. But I think that was a privilege. And well, obviously it's the white girl that's coming to get the job, not the black girl. I don't know what she's doing here. And I see it in my world of education. And again, those are those biases that sometimes teachers don't know they have. Is they teach differently to black and brown kids than they do white kids. And they will defend it to the end of the day to the end of their days that they don't, but they do, because as soon as they see a black and brown kid, they automatically think like low income, single parent, education is not important. They're so surprised when there's two parents in the home. So what surprises you about that? Like, Black people get married. They have stable homes.
Yes, they have PhDs.
And I think too, though, that there is privilege even in education and experience. Like you look at, they've picked apart, like, the SATs and the ACTs, and there's a clear difference. Like white kids perform better on the SAT, but a lot of that is experience, what they're exposed to. Yeah. And when we're talking about a people who literally had to start from nothing, we had to survive. There was a movie that I was watching, and one of the guys said that slavery, I can't remember the movie, but the line was something like, slavery taught us how to survive, not how to live. And so you've got these people who are surviving slavery. They're surviving down here in the South, Jim Crow. But even when we were in those segregated schools, they were getting less than. They were the ones that didn't have textbooks. Right. So already, we're all going to school, but my education isn't the same as your education.
And it's education, and then it's housing too, like redlining.
Yes.
And so you've got it in education, you have it in housing, and there is a legit oppression. Yeah. That's been happening the whole time. Yeah. And okay, so
I will even say, like, and privilege goes both ways. So again, like I look at my girls and they have privileges. They live a life that maybe other kids that look like them don't.
You finally got my girl Kennedy a phone. Thank you.
Yes. She's on it all the time. I'm regretting that, but yes, she has a phone. And just dealing with her too, they're kind of in a bubble with my own kids. Yeah. And so we're having these talks about race and what's going, even all the way down to Carson, who's, 7 years old. And we're talking about the things that are happening in the news and why people are protesting. And Kennedy just had, my gosh, maybe 3 days ago, an experience where she had some friends in a group chat and they texted her and they were like, I don't really know what the big deal is. And again, she's 14. So we're still learning on like, how do you respond to these things?
Right.
But the text and the thread was like, I don't know why people are making such a big deal about it. More cops died than Black people. And so and that bothered her. And so she came and she was like, Mom, I don't understand why they're saying this.
Yeah. There's Kleenexes.
And I've been passing out Kleenexes all day.
Yeah.
Like, I will not have one.
It's your...
But I don't know what she said. I know. I'm like, I cannot get away with this.
You realize she literally has been passing out Kleenexes to all the teachers.
So all the teachers, like, we're going to do this. We can do this. And now I'm like, I need one.
She's in these text threads. And
yes. And so I just told her, Kennedy, it's like...
Yeah, how do you explain that?
So we just say that some people say things that they have no idea about.
Yep.
They're just spouting things that they've heard. But I told her you could respond with like, you would never say to somebody who said, you know what, my grandma died today. And that person would usually say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Is there anything that I can do for you? Yep. They wouldn't say, so what color was your grandma's hair? Oh, it was brown. Well, do you know more gray haired grandmas died? And like, no one would ever do that.
That's such a good example. No.
And so we talked through that and we talked about things that she could say. And like that may be true. There may be more police officers that are killed in the line of duty than Black people are shot by police. But it's also, it's apples and oranges when you talk about percentages. I mean, Black people make up 12, 13% of the population, yet they make up, I don't know, 96, 97% in prisons. Yep. Like, so there's something wrong there.
Yep.
And then I also say like, and I don't want to be insensitive to law enforcement, but that's a risk that they take when they take that job. Like, I'm not a police officer because I'm scared of everything. I'm not in the military because I'm scared of everything. Right. So that's not like a risk I'm willing to take. I don't think that being Black should be a risk.
Yes.
And that's not something you signed up for.
100%. Yes. I heard somebody describe white privilege one time as like nobody's saying that white people have better lives or have had less or more hard, but you've never had hard things happen because
of what you look like. Absolutely.
Of what you look like. And that's the difference. So no one's saying that. And it's the same thing with Black lives and all lives. You know, no one is saying all lives don't matter.
Yeah.
My gosh, all lives.
I feel like if I'm telling you Black lives matter, your response should be like, all lives matter. No, you should have been like, you're right. They matter. Yes, they do matter.
Yes.
In that statement, I'm not discounting anybody else's life. I'm just telling you, hey, Black lives matter.
And there are signs throughout the generations that point to that many feel like they don't.
Yeah.
And that is the community and that is the population that is in pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. The all lives matter. We've had multiple, as you know, we've had many people upset, you know, about our stance against racial injustice because it's not a race issue. It's a sin issue and
absolutely
yada, yada, yada. Obviously.
Yeah.
It's a sin issue. It's like obviously all lives matter. Nobody is arguing that.
Yes.
God says he wants justice and oceans of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so nobody is trying to like push you down in your privilege, but we have to wake up.
But I also want to know, like, why is that the reaction? Like, when you hear Black Lives Matter, why does that automatically trigger you to no, all lives matter?
I have an opinion. What's yours?
I don't know. I'd love to hear it.
My opinion is it has been politicized.
Okay.
For the same reason that people don't wear masks because they don't care about their neighbor. They don't wear masks because it's been politicized. Same reason, COVID, and the same reason. And I think that movement has become politicized. And so if you're on one side or the other, you have you feel like a moral obligation.
Okay.
To not. I think this is my opinion.
Okay.
To not, because I was talking to one lady who has left the church because of our stance on racial injustice. And I was like, do you feel like the Black community is lying?
Yeah.
Like, are they lying? Are they all lying?
Yeah.
like about their experiences, or are we not getting something?
Mhm.
And could our voices do something for them, right? So we're just in this conversation. She wasn't ugly at all, but she was just very, she goes, I know they're hurting, but I'm hurting too.
Wow.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah. We're not discounting your hurt.
I'm sure you are hurting. I'm hurting too. I've had a rough couple weeks too. But there are some things that I will never experience. And if we can't put our politics aside and do what the freaking Bible told us to do.
Absolutely.
Like, what are we?
Yeah.
Like, if I can't say, and I get the slogan versus the movement.
Yeah.
And I do understand that. And Dustin made that clear too. Like the movement, Black Lives Matter, has some things that are anti-Christian and, but our stance is, why can't we say it and take it back?
Yeah.
Like, so they just get to say Black Lives Matter and we don't?
Yeah.
We don't get to step up for, and if you look at Jesus on earth, where was he? With the marginalized.
Yeah.
With the people. I mean, there's just, I feel like it's so black and white. it's like, I can't imagine. And I was telling, I think maybe you that night, but I'm like, I've been in this for like a few months now. And the assaults on us, the verbal hate, people just coming unglued.
But what's crazy is they would do that to you. I don't think any of them would ever say,
okay,
well, Katrina, no, I think all lives matter.
Interesting.
I really don't. And sometimes I'm not on social media a lot because I also, I just don't want to be disappointed by people.
Yeah. Oh.
And so you see the things that people post and you're like, what?
No.
I just don't. I guess I can't wrap my brain around like when people are hurting, when you see people dying in the streets, like if that doesn't move you, I don't know what will.
Well, right.
Like, I don't know how you cannot be bothered by what is happening. The same thing with Jacob Blake, like how you're not bothered by that. He had his back turned to the police officer. The police officer actually had his shirt. So if he wanted to physically restrain him, he could have.
And then there's the white terrorist that shot up a movie theater and was removed quite peacefully.
Yes, which they usually are. The one that shot up the Walmart in what was that, El Paso?
Yeah.
They usually are.
Oh, man, it's so hard. Okay, question. Going back to you and PK. So your family, because you were primarily around your white family.
Yes.
What did they feel about you marrying a black man? I don't know if we even let people know that PK is black man.
Yes, he is black.
He's black.
If you're wondering, yes, he's black. I don't really think they had an opinion just because.
Okay, so it wasn't a problem for them.
Yeah,
at all.
The only problem it was for my mom. But like we are here, I think they just thought they can go either way and it'll be okay. So I don't think there was any like, don't bring any more black in the family. None of that. That they had already
dealt. To hear any of.
No, they had already dealt with that with my mom.
But yeah, because of your dad.
Yes.
Right.
So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I think they thought, well, that's just only natural.
Yeah.
So I didn't. Yeah. I don't think they've ever.
Did you consider at the time marrying a black man and having black children and what that were you cognitive of like, this is going to, do you even know what I'm asking?
Like, okay, tell me some more.
Like marrying a black man,
you're
going to have to deal with the racism.
Yes.
That's prevalent now coming at him and your family.
Yes.
In ways, it just is what it is what it is. And then your kids, now you're going to have conversations. Not that you wouldn't have had to anyways, but I guess
curious. I probably didn't put too much thought in it because
at the time.
Again, it's normal.
Yep.
So marrying a black guy, one day having to have these conversations with my kids, that's normal. Going around, like my kids experienced it probably for the first time. Was it this summer maybe? We had gone to a store and they had never been followed before.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had to have those
conversations. Can you explain that this is completely normal for
Yes. So it's
kids
very normal
to
go into stores and be followed by someone that works in that store. And they try to be not very obvious, but they are. And every move that you make, they make with you. They ask you a whole bunch. Can I get you anything? Do you need anything? What are you looking for? And it's not customer service. You know exactly what they're doing. And so my kids had never experienced that before until this summer. And so we had to have a conversation of like, sometimes you do that. Sometimes you go into certain stores and they don't know why you're there and other than to steal. And so they make sure that they follow you as opposed to like, and what's so crazy is we happen to have been in there with my mom who's white. And we came in first and then she came in after us. And she was just walking around doing her thing and following my kids 14, 10, and 7. Yeah. Like, they don't want anything from your store. They don't even want to be here. They're only here.
Just mad they're here.
Yes. Like, and followed us around every move we made. And so, but again, like I said, I just, those things happen. And so I know that I have to have conversations like that with my kids. And it's been a little bit more difficult, I'll say, with the oldest one, just because she's just coming into the realization that things can be different. Like, and even certain situations, she still can't see it. So that just comes with time and maturity. And, but that's been kind of difficult of getting her, because we've kept her in a bubble. And, and she's never really had to face that. Text was probably the first time where it was like, bam, in your face. And from people she really thought like rode for her, like, you're in my corner and you clearly can't love me if you're saying these kinds of things. So, and again, they're young. Yeah. So they have a lot of growing to do too.
Okay. Can I ask you another question about kids? So how do you, and this is why I love you and like your perspectives, is because you are secure in what you think, but I feel like you're very, like you're just a rational person. Yeah. You know, and you come you come at things. I mean, she does have a story to tell me later off camera, but
it's a good one.
But you come at things like with rationale, and like when you talk racism and growing up Black in America with your daughters, whenever that conversation has to happen, how do you, and you have white, I mean, we're good friends. You have white friends. Yes. You have a white family.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So how do you approach that conversation and let them know this has been perpetuated? I'm so sorry to say it, but by white people, it just is. Yeah. Like, we are the dominant power. You know, I mean, that is just, it is what it is. And so how do you...
Well, and the majority, so.
Yeah, majority, exactly. And so how do you explain these concepts to kids? Well, at the same time, they have grandma that's white and best friend Jamie that's white. Yes. And you know what I mean?
Yes. I think I'm really honest with them. Okay. So obviously, like for the youngers, I break it down into like more kiddie terms, but when they have questions, I'm really honest. And sometimes they'll ask like things about our personal family, like, do they feel this way? Yeah. And so I'm super honest. I don't know how else to be. I want them to be prepared. I definitely don't want it to take them by surprise and them not know. I want them to know that they're Black. I want them to know that there are things that happen because they're Black, but I want them to be, oh my gosh.
This is good. Don't worry, I'm not going to offer you a Kleenex. You'll get mad. You'll get mad at me.
I'm using the Kleenex today. I also want them to know that there's pride in them.
100. That yes, I knew that's where you were going. Yes, that is an incredible thing and a beautiful thing, and not something to be ashamed of, or something that yes. Do they hear that?
They do. Yes. Yeah. I feel like I got something right with the 7-year-old, just because, and maybe it's also because she's young. Maybe just because she's young still and she's still kind of jaded. Kennedy does some questioning of herself sometimes, but that the youngest one is like, I love brown people. Brown people are amazing. I love all people. Like, but she's very proud of being brown. And she's in a school where she's the only brown kid, but she's very comfortable with that, and she's very okay with telling people like, yes, I'm brown.
If that doesn't make
I feel
you
like
proud
we got something right
as a mom. I mean, for real. Yes. She'll shout it from the rooftops.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So even down to like hair texture, like we've even had to have those conversations of like, because hair touching is big Okay.
Okay.
So
Talk about that.
I don't know why. And I
Mhm.
don't know why it's fascinating to some people. I'll just say some white people fascinated by our hair. And we do not like our hair touched. And like,
this is good.
A lot goes into our hair and the whole process. And so not only that, but like, we're not an exhibit, so you don't need to come up and pet us. And even if you ask us, it's still offensive, so please don't do that. But even with their hair, they all have 3 different kinds of hair, and each one of them has their own struggles. And obviously, you always think the grass is greener. Like, I wish I had that one.
Right.
I wish I had. And I always just tell them that's the beauty of Black people.
Yes. That's the beauty of being Black, girls.
We come in all colors. We have all kinds of texture hair. And so, yeah, one of my favorite shows right now is, oh my gosh, I'm going to get it together. That's the kids. Don't ask me any more questions about my kids.
I know.
Yeah. Like, my gosh. I used to never be a crier. And then the more kids I have, it's like this button that they pushed. Yes.
I know.
I used to laugh at my mom, like, get it together, Mom. And now I'm like, but okay.
I know.
But right now, one of my favorite shows, so I love trash TV.
Yes, of course.
So when I want just trash, I go to The Housewives. Okay?
Of course you do, yes.
But when I want to like feed my soul, on Oprah's network, they have this series called Black Love. Oh. And I just love it because
I gotta watch this.
So much of media tries to tell you like that Black marriages don't exist. And that is all that this show is about. They just interview couples and they talk about their ups and their downs, and they're just really transparent. And I just love it. I just sit there and watch it, and the kids are like, "You're smiling. What are you smiling about, Mom?" But it's just so sweet to see.
Yes.
And to know that Black love does exist.
Yes.
Black marriages exist. They're 2-parent households in our culture. So it's just a good representation. And they have a new series coming out called They Call Me Dad. Oh. And it's about Black dads. Because, of course, they've been torn apart in media.
Yep.
And so it's T.D. Jakes and his kids. It's Kirk Franklin and his kids and a couple other guys on there.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It's coming.
I know. Keon doesn't watch much TV, but I'm going to force him to watch this. But it looks really good, just celebrating Black dads.
Yes.
So I'll probably make my kids watch too.
Speaking of representation, did you have representation? Did you feel like growing up? In media or movies or
oh my gosh,
church-wise, or did you feel like
I'm trying to think. I'm so old, I have to go way back to the memory box there.
Because you think I'll say this.
Okay.
Not bashing on Disney. We are not bashing on white people. We are not bashing on police. We are not bashing on Disney. We are just we are talking. Okay, everyone.
Right.
So
I'd love to say,
please don't at me.
Yes, Disney World is one of my favorite destinations. Okay,
so we all love Disney. So no one needs to freak out. But we're all a product of our times.
Yes,
and I did find it was interesting when I heard a while ago that Disney was created in 1923.
Okay,
and the first Black, I can't remember if it's princess. I think it was the first Black princess was 2009.
Yeah. Princess and the Frog.
Yep. Tiana.
Yep.
Tiana. Yep. That's it.
Yes.
And when I heard that, I was like, wait, all the princesses. And then I was like,
yeah,
all the princesses look like me.
I think it just, again, that's why I'm saying I really have to think, because again, it's normalized for me. So it's not uncommon for a show to be on and there's not a single person of color in it. So I don't even think I realized or even thought about it. That's just what was normal.
Yeah. With Black Panther dying.
Yes. Oh, I know. We're devastated for so many reasons. For Black Panther. Kennedy's devastated because she thought he was so handsome.
Marry her.
I was like, first of all, he's way too old for you, and he's already married. So then there's that. But yeah, so devastation all in my house.
I'm just like, when Dustin was like legit like giving me condolences, like it was like one of my own family members, because he knows how much I love Black Panther and just superheroes in general. I was so upset. I was crying at 2 a.m. Then I woke up the next morning and I'm like, Dustin, Black Panther died. Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman. Oh my gosh. He was like, I am so sorry. But I can only imagine, like, well, first of all, I'll say this. Jude wanted to be Black Panther for Halloween.
Uh-huh.
And these are the questions now white people who are thinking should have is it okay for him to be Black Panther? Because is that like, you know what I mean? Because you want to be careful about cultural appropriation. Because that is, and I know it's uncomfortable, white people. I know, but we have to really ask these questions. And not rob them and their community of things. Yes. And so I texted one of my Black friends and I was like, hey, who's very like up on, you know, I was like, hey, is it okay for a little white boy to be Black Panther? And she was like, 100%.
Absolutely. He's a superhero.
Yeah, he's a superhero. And I was like, that's amazing. But I'm learning. Like, I don't know. And so
now,
the
if
other
you painted
day,
his face black, we might have a problem.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
That's where you that's you've crossed over if you do that.
That's what we don't do, people.
Yes,
we
please do not make your skin brown.
100%. If it's not obvious, we never, ever, ever use the N-word, whether we are quoting a song, a person that is not ours, and we never, ever, ever paint our faces.
Yes. And if it makes you feel better, I'll probably get a lot of flack, but I don't think anybody should ever use the N-word, no matter what color you are.
Okay.
That is my
Can you give me that? Okay, because
my own personal opinion.
I would like to hear I want to hear your perspective on this.
My take is just it's such a powerful word and it's just dripped in hatred.
Yep.
And I know, like, the Black community, we've said, like, we're taking the power out of it. But the minute a white person says it, then you're upset. So there's still power in that word.
Okay,
that's what it tells me.
Yep.
And so I just feel like nobody should be saying it.
That's a really good perspective.
Now, I won't judge you or anything. That's just my personal opinion. You're not going to catch me saying it.
Yeah.
And I encourage my kids not to say it.
Yeah. Have they asked about it?
So the younger ones, no. But Kennedy, yes, just because she's around
school,
older kids and a lot of different groups of kids. And so, she'll tell me like this person said this. And I just ask her, you know, what did you say? How did that make you feel? Again, I'm just here to answer questions as honest as I can. But and I've told her my stance that I think that word is just too ugly and it should never be used. And so I don't use it and I would hope that you won't use it. So, but she's never asked to use it. I hope she's not out there saying it, but I don't know. And it is.
You get on her TikTok and she's like,
in non-brown or specifically Black people, it is a little confusing, and I'll give you that.
Sure.
You're putting it in songs that I'm really just singing the lyrics. So I'm not meaning that out of like bad intention. So I get that it's a little blurry.
But it is layered in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hundreds of years of just hate.
Yeah.
So it's just not a word that I like.
Yeah. I like that perspective. It's really good. Question for you. So Jude, he's 6. And he knew that the George Floyd thing happened because he was there when he wasn't watching it, obviously. But he heard Dust and I talking about a man that had been killed. So he starts going like, why was that guy killed? Why was that guy killed? And then like a few months before that or whenever, maybe it was a year, I don't even know time anymore, but it was Martin Luther King Day. So we went down to like the parade. And he was like, who is this guy? And we were like, well, it was a man who was killed. And so now he's got these two things kind of in his brain. And he's really quick.
Yeah.
And he remembers everything. And he's like, well, that man was killed. And now another man was killed. And he starts asking questions. And I want your opinion just for white moms of white kids. I buried it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, he's too young for this. I don't even want him to put it in his head. But it goes kind of back to that we don't see color, like sweeping it under the rug thing. And I felt like I maybe did him a disservice because then I was reading something and they were like, no, like get your kids early. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
So I would say if they're asking, I mean, you're not going to give them every detail, but if they're asking, then I tell mine. And
well, that's why I'm asking because your approach is honesty, and that's like challenging my choices because I like that. Yeah, and kids can handle more than we think.
Yes.
We know that.
Yes, and they will. And sometimes, like with my own kids, they're quiet, but they just need that time to process, and then they come back with more questions. I can't remember. Oh gosh, it might have been George Floyd when I talked with Karsten. Karsten's at the time, maybe she was 6, maybe 7. And she asked like, what happened? What are they angry about? And she asked, why did that happen? And I said, well, sometimes Black people are looked at differently. Sometimes, depending on our experiences, things that we've been taught, people see and perceive Black people as dangerous. And so they react that way. I said, I don't know why that happens or how that happens, but what you can do is just love people.
Yeah. That's your, I know you're not. Third time refusing the tissue.
Stop asking about the kids. But yeah.
So you tell her the honest truth, no matter how hard it is. And then you just say, but your response is to love people.
Because my thing is too, I don't ever want her to be misinformed. So I don't ever want her coming home and saying, especially as a Black girl, Mom, all lives matter. Mom, more cops. Did you know more cops are killed than Black people?
Black on Black crime is more. Yes. All the statistics people love to throw out.
I'm like, I don't want her spouting those things. And I hope that she gets to a point, and all 3 of them get to a point where they can respond. Not necessarily out of anger, but because I feel like.
Well, that's what I feel like you've done a really good job with, is like you tell the truth, but it doesn't provoke. Maybe it's because you're not angry. I mean, do you feel like you don't?
I'm not like
not that you don't have angry moments.
Yeah,
but
I'm not out there going ham on people. No,
right, exactly. Yeah. So maybe it's just your own spirit in communicating to them.
I also feel like with anything, even like with like we're an example of God's love. So that's what I'm telling my kids.
Yeah, no matter how hard it is, no matter what. Yeah.
And so, I'm just trying to send them off so that they're equipped to handle what this world's going to give them.
Yeah. The horrible part is, it's going to give them some things. And some of those things are going to be due to their skin color.
Yeah.
And that is a horrible reality.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to have another conversation, June. This is like, honestly, this is like really helpful.
Okay. I've guilted you into talking to June.
No. You're not allowed to ask me any questions about my kids, because then I'll start crying. It will just be annoying people.
Yes.
Okay, so for some people are just not going to agree with us. They're going to be convinced that there's no racism. They're going to be convinced that it was all abolished, hundreds of years ago, and that it doesn't exist. Whatever, that's going to happen. So never mind those people.
Yes.
Y'all are more than welcome to walk your own journey.
Yeah.
For those of us who really want to learn, right, and are really facing some of these things in ourselves, in our culture, in the media that we've absorbed, sometimes in our families. Because again, we're raised by grandparents and parents from different times. But for the white population that really is like, it's hard, but we want to learn. What are some steps we can take?
I would say,
to learn, and then 2, to help start righting wrongs.
I feel like maybe start number 1 with diversifying your life. So if your life is really white, then you might want to add some color. And I don't just mean just Black people or Black, brown people, just people from other cultures, period. Just being open to those other cultures and willing to listen to their experiences. Oh gosh,
I love that one. I love that one though. Because there is something so powerful that happens when you are friends with people that aren't like you.
And then be honest with yourself, I think. Yes. And that's just hard for all of us to do, even for me. Like looking yourself in the mirror and saying, what are the things that I'm doing to contribute to this? And then being willing to admit those things. And then again, what can I do about it? And I also feel like you should be proactive. So if this is something you really want to do, you need to be proactive. I don't want to be the answer because I'm the Black person.
100%. It's not your job.
Yeah, it's not my problem to solve. Like I've been living with this. Yes. That's on you.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's
a lot of pressure for me.
It is not your Black friend's problem to educate you.
Yeah. And that's a lot of pressure.
Yes. Yeah, you got enough going on.
Yeah.
So like self-educate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look yourself in the mirror and self-educate.
Yeah.
Do you have some tools on that?
I don't know.
I know White Fragility, that book is been huge for some of my
and
girlfriends.
that was also something that like I wanted to read myself because again, remember I told you the George Floyd, I was just dumbfounded by it. This one guy is the guy. Like, and so I did want to, that was one of the books that I was looking into because I wanted to see like what the perspective of a white person, like why is this so uncomfortable? Why are you so blind to it?
Yep.
So yeah, I would say read what you can read. Also, like, I don't know, be careful of social media. Be careful of what you click. I don't know. Yeah, I think the biggest part of like you can read all day, but I think actually listening to a person's story for me is more powerful.
For sure.
And I also don't even need to know like your life story, but just having that relationship and just seeing what life looks like. I don't know. Sometimes I am like convinced that I am the only person of color that people that I interact with, I am the only one. Yeah.
It's the relationships that help us see. It's not the articles. So many women send me articles to read.
Yeah. I feel like what I'm reading is until I make it human, it doesn't matter.
Yes, it doesn't. Nope, because it's just statistics and facts.
Yes.
And if I'm already predisposed.
Yeah. See, neither one of us can talk. People, it's been a long day.
It's been a long couple months for us too, actually. That's another stories for other time. But if I'm predisposed to, a loyalty over here, and then I'm just reading articles of data.
Yeah.
It'll never, but if I can sit down with you and you're like, no, Jamie, like, you know me, you love me, I'm an honest person. I am telling you, it is out there. It is real. And we face it every single day. And again, it's not the Black community's job to help us.
Yes.
But they are being very, I feel like, kind to us. In that they are having the conversations that they shouldn't have to have.
Yeah.
They've been through enough and they are taking time to help. And like even the Black representation in our church, they're just, they love people raging online.
Yeah. Well, and I think
against them.
To that comes from, thank goodness you're here to help. I'm sure that's the openness. And it does get daunting of being that one Black friend that they go to for all things Blackness. But it is nice to have you in our corner. We can get things done, but we can get more things done when we have more people on our side.
Yes. And we got to get it done.
Yeah.
And we're going to.
Yeah. I got 3 girls. We need to get it done.
We got to get it done fast.
I have 3 girls who maybe one day, a long time from now, will also have children of their own.
Yeah. And we want their story to be different.
Yeah. So I see some things evolving, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we do. Like, we just don't know how to ask things that we really want to ask and learn. Again, for those who really want to learn. And I just really appreciate you, your friendship, your family, for birthing my best friend Kennedy. And
you're welcome. She is pretty cool.
We sure love you guys. And we're in this together.
Absolutely.
Do the work.
Yes.
Amazing.